You know, you collect all these business books, right? Maybe you've got highlights, notes in the margin, ideas that really spark something.
Yeah, tons of them.
But how do you actually make them work?
Yeah.
Go beyond just, nodding along and actually use those insights to grow.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Well, welcome to the deep dive. This is exactly what we do here. We take those big ideas from the best sources and figure out, okay, how do we put this into practice?
Let's get practical.
Today, we're digging into Mike Michalowicz's Profit First. It's a system, really, designed to make profitability like a permanent fixture in your business, not just a happy accident.
Exactly. And it's not just some airy theory. Profit First comes straight from the trenches,
Yeah.
Mike's own journey, plus loads of other entrepreneurs.
Like that story about Debbie Harich.
Oh, yeah. Debbie's story is powerful. 10 years building her agency, working like crazy. And then this gut punch realization, where's the profit? She actually said she felt like a fool. It really shows why this Profit First idea is so needed. And her light bulb moment came when she heard the core concept, right? Which is basically flipping the script on how we usually think about profit.
Completely.
Yeah.
We're all taught, sales minus expenses equals profit. It's accounting 101.
The leftover.
Right. Profit First says, nope. It's income minus profit equals expenses. You decide on the profit first.
You prioritize it. Take it off the top.
Yes. By doing that, you're not just hoping for profit, you're engineering it. You force yourself to figure out how to run the business on what's left.
Makes you leaner. More innovative, maybe.
Definitely more innovative. And what's clever about the book is how he structures it. He calls it front loading.
Yeah.
Meaning he puts the most crucial, actionable stuff right up front. So even if you're just listening now, maybe multitasking, you'll get the core principles you can actually start using almost immediately. You get the tools without getting lost in the weeds right away.
That's smart because, let's be honest, running a business often feels less like building a dream and more like wrestling this cash-eating monster, as he puts it. It can really feel that way, a constant battle.
So our mission here today is to explore how Profit First gives you the reins to tame that monster. Turn it from something scary into a reliable cash cow.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
Let's start with why that traditional formula sales minus expenses equals profit. Why is it so often a trap?
Well, like we said, it inherently makes profit an afterthought. It's the residual. Whatever crumbs are left, if any are left, after everything else is paid.
So your focus naturally goes to just making more sales, cutting costs maybe.
Right.
But profit itself isn't the primary driver.
Exactly. It gets pushed down the priority list.
Mike shares that story about himself, right? After selling his second company.
Oh, the Land Rover story. Yeah. He gets this huge check, like $388,000.
Wow.
And his first instinct, not strategy, not investment, it was pure ego. He went out and bought the most expensive Land Rover he could find.
Ouch. That's a painful lesson.
He's very open about it. It perfectly illustrates how focusing only on that big revenue number without a profit-first mindset can lead to really reckless decisions. Money comes in, money goes out just as fast.
And that leads into what he calls the survival trap.
Survival trap. That's where you're just so focused on keeping the lights on, covering payroll this week, paying the next bill.
You're getting by.
Just getting by. And the decisions you make in that mode, they're often short-term fixes that actually pull you further away from where you ultimately want to be. Taking bad clients, cutting corners.
Chasing revenue at any cost.
And you see these businesses, right, they look successful. Big revenues, lots of activity.
A shiny surface.
Totally. But underneath, they're just barely covering costs. Or worse, racking up debt. It's like a house of cards ready to tumble.
Which brings us to that quote he uses. Revenue is vanity.
Profit is sanity, and cash is king. Absolutely nails it. Focusing only on revenue is dangerous.
Okay, so the old way is flawed. What's the profit first fix? You mentioned flipping the formula.
Right. Income minus profit equals expenses. That's the core principle.
Seems simple, but how does just changing the math change behavior?
It's psychological, partly. He uses the analogy of using smaller dinner plates.
To eat less.
Exactly. If you have a smaller plate, you naturally put less food on it. By taking your profit out first, you're essentially giving your business a smaller plate for its expenses.
Okay, that makes sense.
It forces you to be more frugal, more creative with the money you have left for operations. It taps into Parkinson's law.
Which is?
The idea that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Well, Michalowicz argues expenses work the same way they expand to consume the money available.
So shrink the money available for expenses and...
When you force expenses to shrink, or at least you become much more conscious of them.
So how do you actually do this? Are there rules?
There are 3 foundational rules, basically. First, serve sequentially.
Serve sequentially.
Yeah. Every time money hits your income account, you dish it out in a specific order. First, your profit allocation. Then, owner's compensation. Then, tax savings. And only then, whatever's left goes to operating expenses. You serve profit first.
Before you even think about paying bills.
Absolutely, before paying bills. That's rule 1. Rule 2 is remove temptation.
Okay, I think I know where this is going.
Probably. Once you've allocated money to your profit and tax accounts, you need to make it slightly inconvenient to get to.
Not just sitting in the main checking account.
Definitely not. He strongly recommends opening separate savings or checking accounts for profit and tax at a different bank.
A different bank? Why?
To create friction. If it takes a few extra steps, maybe a day or 2 to transfer money back, you're much less likely to impulsively borrow from your profit or tax stash to cover a random operating expense.
Out of sight, out of mind. Sort of.
Kind of. It just adds a buffer against temptation. And rule 3 is enforce a rhythm.
A rhythm. Like a schedule.
Exactly. Don't just allocate money whenever you feel like it or when a big check comes in. Do your allocations and pay your bills on a set schedule. He suggests twice a month, the 10th and the 25th.
Why those dates?
They generally align well with typical billing cycles and give you a frequent, regular snapshot of your cash flow. It stops money management from being this chaotic, reactive thing.
Okay, sequence, remove temptation, keep a rhythm. Makes sense.
And Mike talks about using this himself, right? After a tough time, getting his own consulting back on track, investing in Hedgehog Leatherworks, it shows it works in the real world.
Yeah, it's not just advice for others. He lived it. It offers hope, you know?
Yeah.
That you can get control of the monster and have that happily ever after, financially speaking.
Absolutely. So, practically speaking, how do you set this up? It starts with bank accounts.
A famous 5 account.
The foundational 5, yes. You need an income account, a profit account, an owner's compensation account, a tax account, and an OPEX account, operating expenses.
So income is where everything lands first.
Correct. All revenue goes into income. Then, based on your percentages, you immediately transfer money out of income into the other 4.
Profit account 4.
Oh, profit.
Yep, your predetermined profit percentage. Owner's comp is strictly for paying yourself a salary.
Okay.
Tax is for setting aside money for, income taxes, sales tax, whatever applies. And OPEX is the account you run the business from day to day. Rent, supplies, marketing, etc.
And a tip he gives is just rename your current main account to OPEX, right, to ease the transition.
Yeah, that's a good starting point. Makes it feel less daunting. But the crucial bit is still setting up those separate profit and tax accounts at bank number 2.
The no temptation bank.
The no temptation bank. Can't stress that enough.
Now, some people might say, look, I'm good with spreadsheets. Can I just track this in my accounting software?
That comes up a lot. And the book's answer is pretty clear. Bank balances drive behavior way more than spreadsheets do.
How so? You can have the most beautiful spreadsheet, perfectly balanced, but when you log into your bank account and see a big chunk of cash sitting there,
you feel richer than you are.
Exactly. Your behavior is driven by that readily available cash, not the theoretical allocation on the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
The physical separation of funds is key.
He even talks about switching banks just for better hours, right?
Yeah.
Commerce Bank.
Yeah, because their hours fit his cash management rhythm better. It shows you should pick banks that actually support how you need to manage money, not just the ones with the best toaster offer.
Right. And there was Lisa's story too. Doubled revenue?
Yes. Implemented profit first, doubled revenue, and started giving herself a quarterly bonus for the first time ever. That's the kind of change the shift in focus can bring.
Okay, accounts are set up. What's next? Getting a baseline.
Precisely. You need the instant assessment. This is like a quick financial health checkup for your business right now.
What does it measure?
Key things like your real revenue. This is important. It's not just your top line sales. If you sell a product for $30 that costs you $10 to make or buy,
your real revenue is $20.
Exactly. Profit first focuses on allocating, based on that $20, the money you actually have to work with after direct costs. The assessment also looks at gross profit, your actual profit percentage currently, how much tax you paid, and what you're currently paying yourself your owner's pay.
So it's a reality check.
A vital reality check. No more vanity metrics. This tells you the truth.
And then you compare this to the targets, the TAPs.
Right. Yeah. Target allocation percentages, TAPs. The book provides benchmarks based on your real revenue level for what percentage should ideally go to profit, owner's comp, tax, and OPEX in a healthy business.
These are like industry standard, sort of?
Kind of, but tailored to the profit first model. They're targets to aim for. You can usually find these tables as a download or in the book itself.
And crucially, they're targets, not strict rules you have to hit overnight.
Absolutely. They're goals. You need to know where you are today. Those are your current allocation percentages, your CIPs from the instant assessment, and then figure out a plan to slowly move towards the TAPs.
Slowly being the key word.
Very cute. The book advises tiny steps, like maybe increase your profit CIP by just 1% or 2% each quarter. Steal it from the OPEX percentage.
Makes it manageable, less disruptive.
Exactly. You don't want to suddenly starve your operations. The book warns against hoarding profit too aggressively, actually. Your business needs fuel OPEX to run and grow. It's a balance.
But building that profit percentage, even slowly, adds stability, right? He connects it to cash reserves.
He does. Gives a rough guide. Like a 5% profit allocation might build up about 3 weeks of cash reserve over a year. Get that up to maybe 24% profit.
Could be 5 months.
Could be around 5 months of cushion. It shows how profit isn't just for taking out, it's for building resilience.
Let's clarify owner's comp versus profit again, because sometimes people mix those up.
Good point. Owner's comp is your salary. It's what you pay yourself for the job you do in the business. CEO, salesperson, technician, whatever roles you fill.
Like any other employee's salary.
Pretty much. Profit, on the other hand, is the reward for being the owner. It's the return on your investment, the reward for the risk you took starting and building the business.
Two different things. And he suggests setting the owner's comp target slightly higher than needed.
Yeah, the TAP for owner's comp is often suggested around 1.25 times what you actually need to live on. This builds in a buffer for months where revenue might dip a bit.
Makes sense.
Oh.
And he's pretty strong on owners paying themselves properly, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. Calls the entrepreneur the world's greatest employee who deserves fair pay. He shares Rodrigo's story of big revenue, but the owner was taking home peanuts. It's incredibly common.
So the message is, don't shortchange yourself just to make the OPEX numbers look better.
Absolutely not. That defeats the purpose. Pay yourself what you're worth for the job you do.
And work with a pro, an accountant familiar with this.
Highly recommended. A profit-first professional accountant gets the system and can help you implement it correctly, especially with taxes.
Speaking of taxes, how do you figure out the initial tax allocation percentage?
The simple starting point is often just looking at what the business actually paid in taxes last year, or reimbursed you for if you paid personally. For many startups, that might actually be zero initially. You adjust as you go.
Okay, so accounts are ready, you've done the assessment, know your CIPs and TAPs. What's the very first move? Actually allocating money.
Yes, taking your first allocation. It might feel a bit weird at first. You look at your main account balance, the one you've renamed OPEX.
Subtract any checks you've written that haven't cleared yet.
Right. Get the real available balance. Then you transfer that entire amount into your new income account.
Okay, so OPEX is zeroed out temporarily, and income has all the cash.
Exactly. Then, from that income account, you immediately make transfers out to profit, owner's comp, tax, and back to OPEX using your current percentages, your CIPs that you figured out.
So the income account is just a temporary holding pen.
Pretty much. Money flows in, gets allocated immediately, flows out. Going forward, all new revenue goes into income, gets allocated same day or on your rhythm days.
The book has an example, right? With like $5,000.
Yeah, walks you through allocating 5 to Iraq based on sample CCAPs. Makes it really concrete. Shows how the money gets distributed across the 5 accounts instantly.
Okay, so you're allocating. Now, to improve profitability, cutting expenses comes into play.
Big time. Often cutting costs is faster than boosting sales, especially initially. The book suggests aiming for like a 10-20% cut in unnecessary expenses right off the bat.
Where do you find those cuts?
Low-hanging fruit first. Cancel software you aren't using. Renegotiate bills with vendors, phone, internet, insurance. Everything except payroll, he emphasizes. Don't cut your team's pay.
And be frugal, not cheap. What's the difference there?
Frugal is being smart and resourceful, using only what you need, not wasting. Cheap is just always buying the lowest price thing, even if it's poor quality or bad service, which can cost you more in the long run.
Value versus just price.
Exactly. Like Jorge and Jose's story, living within their means today, not based on hoped for future income.
And then you make that first small shift in percentages, like 3%.
Yeah, he guides you through taking maybe 1% from OPEX KP and adding it to profits AP, 1% to owner's comps KP, 1% to tax KIP. Small, manageable shifts.
And then physically moving the money.
Yes, actually making the wire transfer or online transfer of those initial profit and tax balances from your main bank over to bank number 2. Lock it away.
Okay, this next part sounds good. Quarterly profit distributions.
The reward. Yeah, this is a huge motivator. These distributions serve a few purposes. 1, tangible reward for the owner. 2, a clear metric of business growth quarter over quarter.
And builds the reserve.
Well, part of it does. The process is, first day of the new quarter, look at the balance in your profit account.
Okay.
Take 50% of that balance and distribute it to the owners according to their ownership share.
50%. What happens to the other 50?
That stays in the profit account. We'll get to that. But the crucial rule for the distributed 50% is it never goes back into the company OPEX.
It's truly a distribution, a reward.
A reward for the owners. Personal use, investment, whatever they choose. And he says, celebrate these distributions. Buy something nice, go out to dinner, reinforce the positive behavior.
Like corporate dividends, basically.
Very similar concept. And it's a good pump, too, to remember to pay your quarterly estimated taxes from the tax account.
Right. Practical stuff, too.
Yeah.
And you keep making those small percentage increases each quarter.
That's the conservative approach he recommends. Tiny bumps up for profit, owner's comp, tax, funded by tiny decreases in OPEX percentage quarter after quarter, moving towards your TAPs.
Okay, so back to the other 50% left in the profit account after distribution. What's that for?
That becomes your business soup rainy day fund, your safety net. The goal is to build that retained profit until it equals about 3 months worth of your essential operating expenses.
So you build a cushion over time.
Exactly. Protection against downturns, unexpected big expenses, that sort of thing.
And what if that fund gets bigger than 3 months of OPEX?
Good question. Once you have that solid reserve, any excess cash building up in the retained profit portion can be considered for strategic reinvestment back into growth projects in the business or move to a longer-term savings vehicle, like the vault account he mentions.
Ah, the vault. That's more advanced stuff.
Yeah, the book touches on advanced accounts for bigger or more complex businesses. Things like dedicated accounts for payroll, major equipment purchases, maybe a drip account if you have lots of recurring revenue, petty cash, prepayments.
But the main messages start with the 5.
Absolutely. Master the foundational 5 first. Income, profit, owner's comp, tax, OPEX. That's where 90% of the magic happens.
What about figuring out how many people you need? Does it help with that?
It offers some tools. There's a formula to calculate the total income your business needs to generate to support your desired owner's comp based on your target percentages. And it gives some rough guidance on employees based on real revenue per employee, a magic number range. But he admits it's not exact science, labor costs vary wildly.
Sure. Okay, managing these accounts day to day. Any tips?
He likes automatic balance notifications from the bank. Keeps you aware without needing to log in constantly.
Good idea.
And using actual bank checks, not personal style checks, for OPEX payments. Seeing that physical checkbook dwindle makes cash outflow more tangible.
Right, more real than just clicking online.
Mm-hmm. And he uses that Apollo 13 analogy.
Oh, yeah. How does that fit?
When they had that crisis, they had limited resources, right? They had to figure out how to fix the problem using only what was available on the spacecraft. Financial clarity from Profit First gives you that same ability. You know exactly what resources you have, so you can solve problems creatively and effectively within those constraints.
Making the most of what you actually have. I like that.
And these principles, they work for personal finances too, right?
Totally. He outlines a personal Profit First system. Similar idea. An account for recurring bills, accounts for daily spending, and crucially, a debt destroyer account if you have debt. Uses Dave Ramsey's snowball method concept.
Prioritize paying off debt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he advises things like lowering your credit card limits, less temptation, forces more conscious spending.
He was pretty hardcore himself, wasn't he? The lifestyle lock.
Oh yeah. He and his wife drastically cut personal spending for a period to get their finances back on track and build freedom. And then he talks about the wage system.
Wage system.
As your income goes up, you consciously keep your lifestyle costs level or only increase them slightly. The growing wedge between income and expenses goes directly to savings or debt payoff. Accelerates progress.
Smart. He even applies it to kids' allowances.
Yeah, like a job list with pay rates. Teaches them earning and managing from the start. And he brings back that piggy bank story from his childhood.
The one that started it all. Right. Shows how these core ideas about allocating money have deep roots. Then he gives actionable steps for setting up your personal profit first.
So you've got the system, business, or personal.
Yeah.
What's the biggest hurdle to making it stick?
Consistency, or lack thereof. The biggest threat is just stopping, reverting back to the old habits because they feel familiar, even if they weren't working.
So how do you stay on track?
Accountability is huge. Having a profit-first buddy, joining a group, even just telling someone what you're doing. He mentions a zero-waste challenge. People stick with it better when they do it together.
Makes sense. Any common mistakes people make when starting out?
Yeah, the book lists a few big ones. Not actually opening the separate pair accounts is number one. Trying to do it all in a spreadsheet.
The temptation trap again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ignoring the allocation percentages, just guessing or winging it. Paying bills before allocating funds. Overspending from the OPEX account and then having to borrow back.
Rating the tax account.
Oof. Yeah, rating the tax or profit accounts. Relying only on accounting software instead of the bank accounts. And sometimes getting pushback from traditional accountants or advisors who just aren't familiar with it.
Like that Rick Barry story he tells, the basketball player?
Yeah. Rick Barry shot free throws underhand. Statistically, it was way more accurate.
But it looked weird.
Totally looked weird. So hardly anyone else did it, even though it worked better. They were afraid of looking different.
And the parallel is?
Profit first can feel counterintuitive. It goes against the traditional grain. But like Barry's free throw, it works because it aligns with how we actually behave with money. You don't need a miracle, you just need to trust the system.
A system built for humans, not spreadsheets.
That's a good way to put it. Leads to profitability, financial freedom, without needing superhuman discipline.
So wrapping this up, profit first really isn't some super complex, high-level financial strategy.
Not at all. It's deceptively simple, actually.
But powerful. A practical way to grab the reins of your business finances and build that permanent profitability we talked about.
And hopefully this deep dive has given you that foundational understanding, the core concepts to feel confident enough to actually start.
And the first step, the immediate action item from the book.
Get those 5 bank accounts open. Income, profit, owner's comp, tax, OPEX. Foundational 5, that's job number 1. Seriously, do it this week.
We'd love to hear from you listening. What part of this really clicked for you? Any aha moments? Or maybe questions that are still percolating?
Definitely read the book Profit First itself for all the details, the worksheets, the advanced stuff. It's packed with guidance.
And remember that consistent profit you're aiming for. It's not some distant lottery win.
No, it's built step by step. Small, consistent actions. Just like the Profit First system itself. Each allocation, each quarterly adjustment moves you closer.